exposed, the incredible 8-year-old girl who surprisingly stood up for the abandoned millionaire. Lily's heart raced as she crouched between the tangled vines and forgotten remnants of the past. She had stumbled upon the mansion, and even at 8 years old, her imagination painted vivid tales of forgotten grandeur. The stories about Mr. Thompson, the reclusive millionaire who had lost everything, echoed in her mind like whispers of trapped souls. While her friends giggled and mocked the crazy old man, Lily felt an unshakable connection to him, stirring a mix of courage and doubt deep within her. Did she really want to speak up for someone most thought was just a lost cause? Trepidation crept along her spine as she imagined her classmates giggling behind her back while they threw around crazy and weird. But was it truly so wrong to care? Her upbringing instilled compassion, yet standing up meant isolation in a peer-pressured world. The certainty of their laughter echoed, lurking in the back of her mind like a monster waiting to pounce. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days of exploration through the crumbling rooms led Lily to dusty photographs hidden beneath fallen furniture, revealing glimpses of Mr. Thompson's past, a man who had once embraced his community with open arms. The beauty of those captured moments filled her with an urgent desire to share his story. Yet as she crafted her own narrative, anxiety gnawed at her. Could she make others see the truth behind the rumors? She could already hear the dismissive tones of adulthood ringing in her ears, telling her she was just a child with unrealistic dreams. Each conversation about Mr. Thompson churned her stomach. The indifference wore on her spirit. Would they ridicule her if she stood up for him? Despair shadowed her determination. Anxiety mingled with passion. She could picture her classmates' twisted faces mocking her for seeking justice for a man who had long been deemed irrelevant. How could she explain the pride and heartache she felt for a stranger? As the town buzzed with the news of a corporate investor's intentions to demolish the mansion, dread sank heavy in her chest. Time was running out, and the once callous indifference of the townsfolk pulsed like a heartbeat, louder and louder. Lily stood at a precipice between fight and fear, every breath strained with the weight of conflicting emotions. Her resolve hardened into a furious determination, pushing aside the confusion. Why should she care what others thought? As she gathered her courage to confront the adults of the town, one question loomed. Could she escape the suffocating grasp of societal scorn? The challenge before her was daunting, yet a flicker of possibility ignited. If her voice could echo through the whispers of the past, then maybe, just maybe, she could save Mr. Thompson's legacy from fading away. And then, just when the crimson sun began to dip below the horizon, she blinked. The front door of the mansion creaked open, revealing a frail figure, a man with the rugged visage of stories untold, returning to reclaim what had been lost. What would he say? Lily's breath caught in her throat as Mr. Thompson stepped into the fading light of the evening, his sunken cheeks and furrowed brow betraying years of solitude and sorrow. She had conjured countless scenarios in her mind about their potential meeting, but nothing prepared her for the reality of his frail appearance. The urgency of her mission surged within her, battling against her spiraling self-doubt. "Who are you?" His voice creaked, brittle like the autumn leaves beneath her feet. "I'm Lily," she stammered, fighting back the flood of disappointment at his lack of recognition or warmth. This was the man she believed in, but the connection she felt crumbled beneath the weight of his indifference. "I found your mansion, your home, and I want to help." His eyes, both piercing and weary, began to scan the perimeter of the forsaken estate, an unkempt garden, shuttling vines, a weathered roof silhouetted against the sunset. She could almost see the memories flash across his face, and it spurred her onward. "We need to talk," she insisted, adopting a confidence that felt borrowed, yet vital. "They want to tear it down. They don't understand you, but I do. I've seen your photographs." A flicker of curiosity ignited within him, although his skepticism remained palpable. Photographs? Lily's heart raced, emboldened by his momentary interest. "You were once someone important, a friend to everyone in our town. If we could share your story, perhaps they would see you differently. You could save this place." He chuckled softly, a mournful sound that echoed in the silence around them. "Child, time has a way of twisting stories. People don't crave memories, they seek shiny new things." Her determination faltered but for a moment. "But that's not true. Your memories matter. They can inspire. I want to write a letter to the town council, gather signatures." "Signatures?" he interrupted, raising his brow. "And do you expect a child's plea to have any weight? They'll laugh it off." The sting of his words rebounded within her, striking at her fragile confidence. "I won't let them. I'll stand in front of them. I won't hold back," she declared, more to convince herself than him. Mr. Thompson regarded her, an unreadable expression shadowing his face. "Why do you care? You have your life to live, your friends to keep." "I care," she retorted, "because I see you. I see who you were and what you can still be." It was a desperate argument, born of hope and raw emotion. The urgency of their strange bond sparked something in his eyes, perhaps a glimmer of long-lost pride. "Fine. If you truly wish to help, we'll find a way," he said hesitantly, after a profound silence hung thick between them. "But you should know that fighting for someone else's truth can come with unexpected consequences." A rush of determination coursed through her. "I'm ready." As they planned how to spread his story, a newfound sense of purpose enveloped Lily. She was on the verge of something monumental, a ripple that could transform lives, including her own. Yet the gnawing fear that gnawed at her insides warned of resistance. Would her peers support her, or would they dismiss her efforts as foolish? The town had grown complacent in its judgments, and she sensed the impending clash of ideals about to unfold. That night, as Lily lay in bed, her thoughts spiraled into a storm. She teetered on the edge of a precipice. The destiny of not only Mr. Thompson but her own identity was now intertwined with the stories of an abandoned past. The morning would force her to confront the world outside her safe haven. The decision had been made, yet the memory of the exchange lingered. They'll laugh it off. With the dawn breaking on her horizon, she clenched her fists, resolve hardening into a weapon against the unknown. The time had come to face the laughter, and perhaps find strength in her own voice. But deep down, would she be enough to shatter the walls built around Mr. Thompson's legacy? Or was her childhood naive enough to falter when challenged with reality? With the first rays of sunlight streaming through her window, Lily felt an awakening unlike anything she had known. She rose with a palpable charge coursing through her veins, her heart a metronome marking the rhythm of her newfound resolve. The enormity of her mission crystallized in her mind. She was going to protect Mr. Thompson's mansion and, by extension, his story, with all her might. This wasn't just a fight for an old building. It was a fight for dignity and legacy. She dressed quickly, her fingers trembling as she slipped on her favorite yellow dress, a vivid splash of color against the dull backdrop of uncertainty that loomed over her. The dress felt like armor, a talisman that propelled her into the world. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, "You never know how strong you are until you have to be." Lily realized with a surge of determination that her strength lay in her ability to connect, to see beyond the exterior, to recognize humanity where it had almost been lost. Today would be her declaration. As she clutched her leather-bound notebook, she could almost hear the whispers of inspiration guiding her pen. The afternoon sunlight refracted through the pages, illuminating her ideas, giving life to her plan. Grabbing breakfast, she could hardly taste it. Excitement vied with anxiety for her attention. Her thoughts darted from one possibility to another. How would she frame her argument? Who would listen? Would they mock her, or would they find resonance in her words? At school, the corridors felt more daunting than usual. She could see her friends gathered around, some laughing, others whispering. The comfortable cocoon of her social circle began to fracture in her mind. "Are you going to talk about that old man again?" One of her classmates smirked, casting a disparaging glance in her direction. Lily steadied herself, her heart racing, but she wasn't willing to back down. "I am, actually," she declared, surprising even herself with the forcefulness of her voice. "You guys just don't understand. He's important." The laughter intensified, but instead of retreating, she stood taller, influenced not only by her conviction, but also by the fleeting recognition in Mr. Thompson's eyes. She wasn't just fighting for him, she was battling for her right to stand firm in her beliefs, a young girl refusing to let anyone define her worth. They may have seen a child, but she felt larger, her spirit buoyed by the meaning behind her mission. As the school day wore on, Lily found moments where she could pause and plan. After classes, she approached her history teacher, Mrs. Collins, a woman she respected and admired. "Can I talk to you?" she asked, hesitantly. "What's on your mind, Lily?" Mrs. Collins said, with a warm smile. With a deep breath, Lily poured out everything. The saga of the mansion, Mr. Thompson's legacy, and her desire to write a compelling letter to the council. Mrs. Collins listened intently, her expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "You have passion, Lily, but I do worry. It's a big responsibility, especially at your age. How do you plan to convince the others?" Lily's stomach twisted, the weight of reality pressed down on her. "I have to find a way," she whispered, seeking encouragement. "He deserves this chance. I want to help him be seen." "Then I suggest you come prepared," Mrs. Collins replied, her tone shifting from caution to encouragement. "Research, bring facts, and maybe even add some of those photographs you mentioned. People connect with stories when they see the truth behind them." Fueled with a sense of purpose and newfound courage, Lily spent the evening crafting her letter. Each line she wrote molded her story, fortifying both her argument and her spirit. She added her hopes, her fears, and a respectful plea for consideration, intertwining Mr. Thompson's journey with her own. As night crept in, a sense of dread settled heavily in her chest. She was terrified of what lay ahead, but she couldn't ignore the burgeoning belief that pushed her forward. Maybe, just maybe, she was enough to make a difference. The days ahead would require her to summon all her strength and creativity. She was left with one question lingering in her mind. Would her courage hold when she faced the council? After sealing her letter, she steeled herself, recognizing that her journey was only just beginning. But nothing prepared her for the moment when the idea of sharing not just words, but part of her own story too, would force her to confront not only the council but her peers. And with that thought looming in her mind, a new nerve took hold. The town's echo of laughter was about to meet an unwavering silence, waiting to hear her voice, perhaps for the first time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily's determination morphed into a concentrated force. Days had slipped by, every moment charged with a mix of anxiety and excitement. Now the reality loomed closer. She could practically feel the council chamber's oppressive air beckoning her. The indifference of her peers weighed on her, but she refused to let it mar her spirit or cloud her resolve. With her notebook in hand, she retreated to her favorite spot in the park, a small bench overlooked by sprawling oak trees. The place had been her refuge, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, an unconfined space where imagination flourished. But tonight it felt more like an arena, Every rustle of leaves echoed her doubts. The letter was neat, a distillation of her thoughts, yet now it felt incomplete. She needed something more impactful, a closing that would resonate with the council members. A mere appeal to save a mansion felt inadequate. What was the essence of what she was fighting for? Dignity and legacy replayed in her mind, but deeper than that lurked her own fear of being dismissed, her voice lost in a storm of perceived irrelevance. Suddenly an idea sparked. What if she shared a piece of herself? She could relate Mr. Thompson's silent suffering to her own feelings of isolation amidst the ridicule. Her fingers twitched, longing to write, crafting a narrative that demanded attention, compelling enough to sway even the harshest skeptic. One letter couldn't change everything, but perhaps it could start a conversation. As she began writing an additional passage, her heart raced, merging vulnerability with the strength born from her attempt to honor Mr. Thompson. "I know what it feels like to be seen as just a kid," she scribbled, her words flowing. "People think they can ignore you because you're still learning, but knowledge doesn't come with age. It comes from experience, an experience I want to share." With each stroke of her pen, doubts began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of purpose so vivid it colored her cheeks. Her thoughts ignited a flame. She realized she had something to offer beyond just a plea for preservation. It was a chance to reveal the profound impact of human stories, regardless of the teller's age. Dusk settled into the background as she rewrote her letter, now layered not just with facts, but infused with emotion, a call for empathy and understanding. How could someone turn a blind eye when faced with the raw testimony of another's life? Lily felt awakened to the dual responsibility, that of an advocate for Mr. Thompson and of forging her own identity as a young champion of overlooked stories. She stopped, taking a deep breath, her eyes gazing out at the water's glimmer under the soft wash of moonlight. The duality of her fight pressed upon her. Would the council see her sincerity or dismiss her as just the child who took pity on an old man? Could she truly breach the barrier between what one expected from her and what she was capable of? The notes danced viciously in her mind, amplifying her internal struggle. The day of the meeting loomed, and her pulse quickened at the kinship of fear and hope. The time had come to face not only the council but her own fears, the fear of vulnerability and the fear of judgment. With a final flourish, she folded the letter, clasping it firmly like a shield against the tide of doubt. The weight of her resolve steadied her. She knew this wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, the potential for growth and change outweighed her apprehensions. Little did she know. An unexpected challenge awaited, a stop along the path that would require Lily to confront her own resolve even more fiercely than she had anticipated. With a breathless determination, she stepped away from the park, the echoes of laughter and skepticism fading behind her, but leaving a daunting task ahead. Could she truly confront the council and fight for not just Mr. Thompson, but also for herself? The following morning bloomed with an unsettling energy that thrummed beneath Lily's skin. The council meeting loomed ahead, its promise of confrontation ringing like a battle cry within her, pushing her further into the depths of her resolve. She barely picked at her breakfast, her mind swirling around possibilities, consequences, and the weight of her own words. On her way to the meeting, the streets felt more alive than before. Passers-by bustled by, faces indifferent to her inner turmoil, while roving cars honked impatiently, oblivious to her struggle. How was it that the world continued to hum so freely while she felt tethered by fear? Adrenaline coursed through her veins, each heartbeat screamed at her to turn back, to retreat into safety. Yet, intertwined with that fear was a stubborn ember of belief pulsating with the certainty of her mission. She arrived at the council building, its architecture stark and imposing, echoing her tension. Inside, everything seemed amplified, the buzz of conversations, the sharp click of heels on tiled floors, the distant hum of air conditioning, all of it whispered doubts. Lily clutched her notebook tightly. The paper might as well have been a lifeline. Take a breath, she thought to herself. But no matter how hard she tried to center her whirlwind of thoughts, moisture clung to her palms, and her heart thudded like a drum, announcing her fate. As she stepped into the council chamber, the room's immensity swallowed her whole. Rows of seats faced a table where council members sat, their expressions inscrutable. Only a handful of community members lingered in the back, an audience bearing witness to her impending dive into the unknown. Briefly, her eyes swept across the familiar faces of peers and adults, all showing varying degrees of skepticism. She recognized the bemusement on some of her classmates' faces, how their eyes danced between disbelief and intrigue. What if they were right? What if she, an 8-year-old, had no business speaking against adults so seasoned in governance? But the thought of Mr. Thompson's plight pulled her focus back. This wasn't solely about her. It was about his story too. That narrative had transformed her into a vessel of truth, a messenger whose voice could reverberate through the confines of the chamber. Clenching her notebook, she moved closer to the podium. Lily took a deep breath, an inhalation that stretched the air surrounding her, contemplating the moment ahead. Her pulse raced, but when she began to speak, steadiness tempered her tone. "Good morning, everyone," she started, her voice a fragile wisp in the still room. As the words escaped, she felt the tendrils of doubt tighten, but forced herself to keep going. "I am here to talk about Mr. Thompson and how the proposed changes will impact not just his home, but his dignity." Lily's heart pounded against her ribs, and yet the sincerity of her words propelled her forward. She recounted Mr. Thompson's stories, his life lessons interwoven with burbling laughter and reflective sorrow. She spoke of resilience, of history hidden within the walls of that mansion, and her own struggle with feeling overlooked. With each sentence, she seemed to shed layers of her self-doubt, while unveiling a truth that resonated beyond her years. The council members' expressions shifted, bending from skepticism into cautious attention. As she navigated through her own memories and the teachings of an old man, she recognized something profound within herself emerge, an undeniable strength, a camaraderie with those whose voices have been drowned out. But just as hopes began to flourish, a council member interrupted her, skepticism cloaked in authority. "And what makes you believe your perspective is relevant? You are merely a child." The sharpness of his words sliced through her confidence like a knife. But from somewhere deep inside, her resolve flared brighter. "What you see as insignificance," Lily replied, meeting his gaze, "is what we should pay attention to. I may be young, but my thoughts carry weight, just as every human experience does, regardless of age." Her words hung in the air, defiance woven tightly into her tone. The tension shifted palpably. The other council members exchanged lingering glances. It was a pivotal moment, as choices unfurled like petals. Would they see her for who she truly was, or would doubt still cloud their judgment? With her heart racing, she sensed potential blooming, the recognition of her capabilities paired with challenges yet to come. One terrifying idea rippled through her mind, sparking an unsettling curiosity. How far could she push this newfound strength? As the room fell silent and expectations now weighed heavily on her shoulders, she stared into the eyes of the council, steeling herself for the answers that awaited her. In this precarious moment between vulnerability and resilience, the realization dawned within her. Could her own voice not only advocate for Mr. Thompson, but also ignite a transformation within herself? With the stakes so high, she felt the air crackle with possibility. Could she truly stand her ground and fight for justice? Or would this critical moment slip through her fingers? The council chamber remained ensnared in silence, the weight of her words lingering in the heavy air. Lily's stomach twisted into knots as she held the gaze of the skeptical council member who had questioned her relevance. Beneath the scrutiny, she felt the awakening of an ember within her, flickering but refusing to be extinguished. In that moment, the world contracted to just her, the councilman, and the myriad of eyes that hungrily awaited her next move. "Is it because I am just a child?" she probed fiercely, her voice gathering strength. "Or is it because the truths I speak threaten the comfort of your authority?" The boldness of her reply startled even her. Each word seemed to strike chords, resounding across the chamber and brushing against the fears that had groaned inside her. As murmurs rippled through the audience, tinged with disbelief and intrigue, Lily sensed an invigorating shift. Perhaps, hidden beneath their facades, there existed a collective yearning for honesty, a silent plea for change that had echoed through the hallways of time. She paused, weighing her own vulnerability against the assembled wisdom of those who sat before her. Taking another breath, she addressed the council, this time with a clarity that steadied her resolve. "Mr. Thompson has fought for his home, his history. I am here to heed his voice, an echo of every person who feels they have been rendered invisible. Removing his home won't just impact him, it'll send waves of fear through the lives of those who think their stories are deemed unworthy. What happens when we ignore the voices beneath us?" A slight nod of acknowledgement from one of the council members fleetingly bolstered her confidence. But then the uncertainty of what followed gripped her. Would they truly understand? Could she persuade them to acknowledge the validity of her stance? Wrestling with those thoughts, she realized how each passing moment took its toll, snatching away her initial buoyancy. The notion of collapse danced around her mind, and she caught herself hesitating, again steering toward the edge of fear. Adversity had taken myriad forms in her young life, yet it also unveiled fragments of courage that she did not know she possessed. Her pulse thrummed in her ears, echoing the mantra, "Let the truth unfold." "People tend to look at me and see only a child," she continued, "but I can understand what it is to lose something dear. My parents are always busy, immersed in their work, and I frequently feel unseen, unheard." Her voice wavered but steadied with intention. "It is a unique perspective, one that begs to be heard. Disregarding it keeps us all from progressing." In the subtle exchange of glances among the council members, she detected a shift, a change from skepticism to contemplation. They were beginning to listen. Perhaps they were grappling with their own reflections of childhood vulnerability. The council member who had interrupted her regarded her with a newly furrowed brow. "You claim to have knowledge of these issues. Tell us, Lily, how do you propose we truly address Mr. Thompson's situation?" It was a pivotal moment, turning the tide toward a tangible discussion. Lily's heart raced, sparking an idea that bubbled to the surface. "We need to engage the community, hear their stories, and connect their struggles to the decisions made here. I think we should host a dialogue session where others can share their experiences and find common ground. Stories matter. They shape how we see one another." Lily's suggestion hung in the air like a dust mote suspended in light, her heart thundering in the charged silence. She had turned a moment of personal struggle into a potential platform for change. But as doubts began to creep back in, questions swirled in her mind. Was this enough? Would they be willing to embrace such an idea, or would they simply dismiss it as the fanciful thinking of a child? The council members murmured amongst themselves, her heart a swell of trepidation and hope. It was a critical juncture. What might this new path of understanding yield for both her and Mr. Thompson? As deliberation ensued, anticipation electrified the air. With her thoughts churning, she knew this was only the beginning, an unraveling of her potential woven into a fabric of circumstance. Opportunities awaited, laden with obstacles yet unseen. Just then, a voice broke through her reverie, one she had not expected. "Let's move forward," the chairwoman declared, her gaze locking onto Lily's. "Let us see how we can implement these ideas." Fear and exhilaration cascaded through Lily's veins, and with every ounce of her being, she felt torn between the exhilaration of possibility and the gravity of the challenges still looming ahead. Could she truly navigate this intricate dance of courage? Or were these budding steps merely the beginning of a more formidable journey? As the council began to formulate their response, she knew this meeting would ripple into her future in ways she hadn't yet fathomed. The seeds of her transformation were sown, but would she have the strength to nurture them? The moment teetered on the brink, and she held her breath awaiting what lay next. As Lily absorbed the chairwoman's words, an electrifying surge coursed through her. The horizon of her aspirations stretched before her, a bridge between childhood vulnerability and adult responsibility. Yet excitement wrestled with apprehension. What lay ahead, cloaked in uncertainty, she understood all too well. Engaging the community would require not just effort, but the vulnerability to expose herself further, to brave the judgments and expectations of those who still viewed her as just a child. The council's murmuring faded into a distant echo as she envisioned her next steps. Would she have the vitality to forge a genuine dialogue that could evoke real change? Or would her youthful voice be lost amidst the clamor of mentor and authority, suffocated before it could blossom? "Lily," the chairwoman continued, interrupting her swirling introspection, "we will draft a proposal for a public forum. I want you to help with the logistics. Show us how you envision this working." Logistics. The term ignited an avalanche of anxious thoughts. She had only ever shared ideas, never orchestrated anything as complex as a community dialogue. What if no one showed up? What if her plan unraveled because of missed details? Each possibility felt like a boulder pressing against her courage. Yet she recognized this was her moment, not just to speak, but to act. Gathering her thoughts, she straightened her posture. "I can help," she managed, her voice deliberate despite the quaking in her chest. "We should start with inviting people who relate to Mr. Thompson's experience, those who have felt silence too. We can encourage them to share their stories." The council members nodded, some taking notes. Encouragement glimmered in their eyes. Perhaps they were recognizing the depth of her commitment, but a gnawing uncertainty twisted in her gut. If they were willing to support her idea, could she truly handle what was being asked of her? The meeting concluded, and as the members began to disperse, Lily felt an uncharacteristic urge to approach the councilman who had first challenged her. Despite feeling small in his towering presence, she waded through her anxiety and initiated a conversation. "Mr. Thompson," she began, hesitantly at first, "thank you for believing in my voice today. I hope our discussions can help people like you." His eyes softened, revealing fragility that mirrored her own. "You've got fire, kid," he said, an appreciative grin breaking through his weathered features. "Keep it burning. You just might shift perspectives." The weight of his words burrowed into her heart. She realized that she hadn't just made an impression, she had incited something visceral within the council as well. But the looming challenge still hovered in the back of her mind. How do you engage a community that had grown accustomed to silence? As the chill of evening set in and Lily made her way home, determination mixed with introspection seeped through her thoughts. She needed to learn. She would need additional support, guidance, perhaps even mentors who had trodden this path before her. Once in her room, she sat at her desk and began drafting a list. Potential contacts emerged from her memories, teachers who had inspired her, neighbors who her family had spoken highly of, and those who had been affected by the circumstances she was championing. Each name sparked a flicker of hope. While putting her thoughts to paper, a vision of the dialogue session crystallized in her mind. She envisioned a space filled with different voices, sharing, connecting, and resisting the urge to retreat into silence. Would she be skilled enough to guide this chaos into coherence? But insecurity clawed its way back. What if her dreams collapsed into the very concrete she was determined to disrupt? What strength could she summon to confront the challenges that awaited? With every stroke of her pencil, she found pieces of herself that resonated with her purpose, and the assurance began to build. Her heart beat steadily as she penned her final thought. This is only the beginning. Yet just as determination enveloped her, the phone dinged, a message from her mother, one she had not anticipated. "We need to talk. It's important." A sudden chill settled over the excitement that had begun to unfurl. The conversation she was dreading loomed closer than ever, an unexpected shadow threatening to obscure her burgeoning empowerment. What news could possibly await her, and how would it sway her newly ignited path of change? Lily stared at the blinking screen, her heart racing. "We need to talk. It's important." The words felt like an anchor, pulling her away from the excitement she had begun to cultivate. What could her mother possibly want to discuss now, when she was finally stepping into her own? She stood, pacing her small room, each step a thrumming reminder of the impending conversation. Images of what her mother might say flashed before her. Disappointment for her ambitions, fear of her involvement in community matters. Could her mother understand this was her chance to carve her own identity, one not shadowed by their past? Trepidation settled like a stone in the pit of her stomach, and she took a shaky breath. The anticipation gnawed at her. With every passing moment, it became harder to sustain the glow of determination she'd felt at the meeting. She wanted to immerse herself in her dreams, envisioning Ms. Adams's approval and the stories yet to unfold. Each thought was now weighed down by the insistent pressure of family obligations. After what felt like an eternity, Lily finally picked up her phone and dialed her mother's number. The tone was sharp, each ring blurring with her pooling apprehension. When her mother picked up, the usual warmth in her voice felt muted, almost distant. "Hi, Mom," she greeted cautiously, testing the waters, unsure how deep the transformation in their dynamic might lead. "Lily, can we meet?" her mother urged, though her tone bore a hint of something unspoken. "I'd prefer to talk in person, okay?" "Okay." The words slipped out, hanging in the air like unturned leaves. Resolved to face whatever shadow lay ahead, she agreed, her spirit caught somewhere between dread and duty. Meeting in the garden of their local park, Lily's heart thudded in her chest, each syllable forming an invisible barrier she couldn't dissolve. She searched her mother's worn face for answers, grappling with her own vulnerability. Why couldn't she simply channel her courage, wield it like armor? But the oppressive weight of expectation loomed large. When her mother finally arrived, the tension thickened. Dressed in her usual casual attire, her mother looked burdened, the lines on her forehead deepening with the weight of their unspoken conversation. It felt almost unnatural to sit together in silence, the familiar chatter absent from the air between them. "Lily," her mother started, taking a deep breath, her voice steady but tinged with concern. "I know you want to help those people, but it's dangerous. You don't know what you're getting into." Lily's pulse quickened. Did her mother not recognize that this was her calling? "But, Mom, I have ideas. I can make a difference." The words rushed out, a desperate plea for understanding. "I want you to follow your dreams," her mother continued, "but this isn't just about you. It involves people who are struggling. If it goes wrong, it could hurt us." A flicker of frustration illuminated Lily's chest. Her mother's caution penetrated the vision she had wrestled to craft, all the empowerment from her meeting, the growth from her plans. It felt like shards of glass now, shards that threatened to cut. What if holding back makes things worse for them? The words were raw, fired directly from her soul, carving through the establishment of safety her mother desired. Her mother's expression softened, tension dissolving briefly, as she sighed. "I just don't want to lose you to something you can't control." In that moment, Lily's doubt surged anew. Whose voice was she amplifying? Was this fight her own, or merely clashes of her mother's fears? And who would she become if she submitted now? The tide of indecision grabbed her heart, pulling it in conflicting directions. The conversation stretched time, and she wrestled with how she could remain genuine in her pursuits, while still honoring her mother's concerns. But deep inside, a resolve began to ignite, the firm belief that if she backed down now, she would never reclaim this sense of agency again. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, ready to confront the fragility of both their realities, her phone buzzed again, revealing a text that signaled an urgent dilemma. "Lily, I need your help. Something's happening with Mr. Thompson." Her thoughts whirled. The stakes had just escalated. How would her mother react to this? Could she keep her burgeoning confidence intact amidst rising chaos? Emboldened and bewildered, Lily looked her mother in the eye. "I need to decide who I am right now, don't I?" The question hung heavy, an unvoiced challenge that neither of them could ignore. What lay ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty, but one thing was clear: she was on the brink of stepping into a storm, and she had to choose which side of the battleground she would stand. As they continued their conversation, a new layer of determination enveloped her. The time was fast approaching where she would have to face all that frightened her and all that inspired her. Could she emerge whole, or would she forever live on the periphery of her own potential? Lily inhaled deeply, letting the air fill her lungs as she tried to ground herself in the chaotic swell of emotions. She felt the weight of her mother's gaze, a mixture of concern and skepticism. Yet the urgency in that text from Ms. Adams sliced through her apprehension, illuminating paths she felt she was only just beginning to grasp. "Mr. Thompson," her mother's voice brought her back to the moment, a reminder of their conversation that had shifted from the personal to the urgent. "Who is he? What's going on?" Lily's mind raced. Mr. Thompson was a figure who had faced exorbitant challenges, a man who had lost so much, yet still managed to stand tall. He needed help to preserve what little remained of his dignity and home. Her intervention could not only stem the tide of hardship he faced, but could also represent the ripples of change she wished to make in the lives around her. "He's someone I need to support," she confessed, her own clarity beginning to emerge. "I can't understand why you're putting yourself at risk. What draws you to him?" Her mother's questions felt like fresh splinters under her skin, a reminder of the deep-seated fears that continued to poison their relationship. "It's not just about him, Mom. It's bigger than that." Lily's determination sharpened, fueled by an internal fire ignited by her recent meeting. "This is about helping others, standing up for what's right. If I don't act now, who will?" With each word, she felt a growing sense of agency, fanning the embers of her individuality into a flame. "But you're just one person," her mother replied, the desperation creeping back into her tone. "You can't change everything alone. You don't have the experience." The dismissal stung. "Mom, I understand the risks, but think about all the time I've spent studying people like him, watching how hope can bloom from the smallest acts of kindness. This could be my chance to apply everything I've learned." Silence hung heavily between them, laden with unspoken words and unshed tears. Yet as she looked into her mother's eyes, she saw the reflection of her own fears, both bewilderment and disbelief stemming from generations of restraint. "Maybe this is my lesson in control," Lily continued, "finding balance and facing challenges head-on instead of hiding from them." Each reasoning began to lace together like the framework of a compelling narrative she was prepared to write. As the moments passed, her mother's features softened. "You're not afraid of failing, are you?" "No," Lily answered firmly. "I'm afraid of not trying." It was a stark revelation, a catalyst for her development. She understood that success wasn't merely measured in accolades or recognition, but in taking ownership of her choices. With the clock ticking against her, she felt the pull of urgency anchor her. "I need to go," she urged, her resolve crystallizing. "This can't wait." "Fine, but—" Her mother's voice wavered, a mixture of worry and acceptance. "Mom," she interrupted, infused with newfound determination, "it's time we talk about trusting each other. I need your support. I can't do this alone." With those words, Lily stepped from the shadows of doubt into the spotlight of her ambition. She was no longer just the daughter seeking her mother's approval. She was a burgeoning force of change, ready to tackle the unknown. As she turned to leave, an idea sparked within her. There were individuals like Mr. Thompson who needed more than just a lifeline. They needed advocates, an echo of their struggles in passionate hearts like hers. If she could rally a small group of allies, could their collective strength amplify her vision? Amidst the growing chaos, her phone buzzed once more, the screen lighting up with another message from Ms. Adams. "Come quickly, you need to see this." Lily's heart raced, her mind alight with possibilities. What new challenge awaited her? Would it be yet another test of her courage, or perhaps a chance to galvanize others to join her cause? With firm steps, she pressed forward, energized and eager to uncover what lay ahead. She was ready to embrace the storm. In that moment, she understood the true meaning of resolve. It wasn't about the absence of fear, but rather the willingness to confront it and emerge stronger. Soon she would need to face not just external obstacles, but also her own evolving identity. What awaited her wasn't just a new chapter, it was a whole new world of challenges that could define her future. Would she prove capable of inspiring others to rise alongside her, or would the weight of expectations once again threaten to smother her resolve? As Lily sprinted toward Mr. Thompson's mansion, a whirlwind of emotions surged within her. Each step pounded the ground with the weight of urgency, a race not just against time, but against the constraints of self-doubt. She could see the weathered silhouette of the mansion against the twilight. Every detail crystallized in her mind. The cracked windows, the crumbling walls, reflecting the resilience still hidden within. Her heart thumped mercilessly as she reached the heavy front door, its presence both daunting and inviting. Before she crossed the threshold, an echo of her mother's concern flashed through her mind. But at that moment, self-surrender to doubt felt like a greater risk than the unknown that lay ahead. Gathering her courage, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air was thick with the sense of dust and memories. There, seated on an old couch, was Mr. Thompson, a waning shadow of the community figure he once was. Seeing him again ignited a flame of purpose inside her. "Mr. Thompson!" she called, her voice stronger than she felt. He turned, weariness flooding his features. "Lily, what brings you here?" "I'm here to fight," she replied, the words tumbling out with fierce conviction. "They want to take your home, but I won't let them. We need to talk to people. My school, the council, everyone." A soft chuckle escaped his lips, releasing unspoken emotions trapped between them. "You're a brave young girl, but a fight often requires more than enthusiasm." Undeterred, she positioned herself in front of him. "I wrote a letter. I'll gather signatures, talk to others who feel unseen, and I want you to help me share your story. People need to hear it." The dim light catching his eyes revealed a flicker of hope, one that had long since faded. "Do you truly believe they'll listen?" "Yes, we will make them see you," Lily proclaimed, her voice steady. She drew strength from her vision, allowing her belief to become a rallying cry. "Your memories, your story matter. Together we can turn this around." As they began discussing her plans, the walls felt like they were closing in, but rather than suffocating her resolve, the pressure fueled her ambition. They mapped out a strategy, laying the groundwork for a community dialogue, an intersection of past and present where each voice mattered. In the days that followed, Lily's aspirations began to take root. She organized meetings, reaching out to her classmates, teachers, and even neighbors. With each connection made, a sense of purpose crystallized within her. The magnitude of Mr. Thompson's story and her own began to form a tapestry woven with shared experiences, ambitions and dreams. When the day of the community forum arrived, anticipation electrified the air. Lily stood in front of a gathering crowd, a diverse assembly of voices and faces brimming with curiosity and concern. She could feel her heartbeat reverberating within her. "Welcome, everyone," she began, her voice unwavering. "Today, we're here not just to save a mansion, but to reclaim a man's dignity and our own stories." As she spoke, Mr. Thompson joined her on stage, each word he shared eliciting empathy, drawing the audience into the rich tapestry of his past. Lily watched as the room grew silent, their faces shifting from skepticism to understanding. It dawned on her. This was more than a fight for an old house. It was about revitalizing a lost narrative that echoed through every soul present. Moments turned to hours, with stories weaving together in a vivid display of connection, commonality, and growth. The atmosphere shifted, a palpable sense of unity rising from the crowd. She saw nods of acknowledgement, strangers becoming allies, and the once quiet murmurs rising into a chorus of recognition. As the forum concluded, the council, now more receptive than ever, agreed to a public hearing regarding Mr. Thompson's situation. As relief washed over her, an overwhelming sense of fulfillment surged through her heart. Lily felt transformed. She had conquered her fears, standing before those who once seemed like towering giants, capable of silencing her voice. She proved to herself that courage resided not in the absence of doubt, but in action taken despite it. Returning home, she found her mother waiting, an anxious expression softened by pride. "You did it, didn't you?" her mother whispered, enveloping her in a warm embrace. "I did," Lily replied, her voice fierce despite the tenderness in her heart. "I stood for Mr. Thompson, and now others are standing with us." Her mother pulled back, placing her hands on Lily's shoulders. "I underestimated your strength, didn't I? I'm sorry for doubting you." Lily smiled back, feeling the weight of a new bond emerging between them, one forged in respect and understanding. "It's okay. I needed to find my voice, no matter how hard it was." The heavy burden she had carried began to lift, realizing she was no longer just the little girl seeking validation. She was now an advocate, capable of inspiring change, enough to alter the course not only for Mr. Thompson, but also for herself. Standing at the intersection of her trials and achievements, Lily had discovered her own tenacity. She emerged from this journey not just with newfound confidence, but a deeper connection to herself and her community. The lights dimmed as she climbed into bed that night, her notebook resting beside her. The quiet of the room enveloped her as she closed her eyes, knowing tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to grow, to lift others, and to write the narrative of dignity, compassion, and resilience that transcended age. In that moment, Lily realized she had transformed. She was the voice of the unheard, standing proudly on the shoulders of those who had come before her. As she drifted off to sleep, she felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. This truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your thoughts matter. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share these inspiring stories.